Greetings, salutations, one and all. Welcome back to another edition of the Ultimate Hockey Show, the second to last, the third to last, third to last. I think we have two more left after this one. The agents are still negotiating and putting pen to paper on exactly what that might look like. Nonetheless, welcome back to the Ultimate Hockey Show following the Stanley Cup final. We took last week off because of the lots of information. We are back this week. I thought, instead of coming back Monday to talk about one more game, let's push it to Wednesday. Push it to Wednesday. Hope that the Stanley Cup is either over or we can set up a game 7. And last night, the Florida Panthers winning the Stanley Cup, just like Rich predicted, in 6 games. Good evening, Rich. How are you?
Very good, Michael. How about you?
Very good, very good. I was honestly worried for you after the series was 2-2. That I was fully convinced the Oilers would win the Stanley Cup and hand you yet another L in your prediction category. So you kind of go out on a high, and I say this jokingly. Of course, by picking the Panthers in 6, you also get the team right and the number of games right, and you go out on a high. And you can
I didn't catch you.
You can have whatever momentum you wish to have in advance of next April.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, welcome back, Rich. It's been great.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets home to the NHL's President's Trophy, Vezina Trophy, and Hart Trophy winners. We'll talk about that later on. But give me a thought on the series. And Rich, I have a confession to make. And this has to come from me because you addressed this on the show 2 weeks ago. And I fell into this trap not only once, not only twice, not only 3 times, but 4 times. Disputing the greatness of the Florida Panthers in these playoffs. Unbelievable is all I got to say. The Edmonton Oilers were no match for the Florida Panthers. And to put it quite bluntly, I don't think anybody would have been a match for the Florida Panthers as long as we kept playing. What a wagon.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
And you and I didn't pick them in the first round. They won the second round. They won the third round. They won. And then this last round, I said, I can't pick against. I've done it all the playoffs. And I've been burned every time I'm picking. And I want to be opposite of you. And you were so gung-ho about Oilers. I don't know. And it really shows you, like, the Jets had a little bit of trouble with the Stars. Jets couldn't generate enough offense with Dallas. Dallas goes up against Edmonton, and Edmonton handles them pretty good.
Yep.
Edmonton won 5. No, not 5 games. Edmonton won 5 games. Yeah, Edmonton won 5 games.
Yep.
So I know pretty good. I figure, wow, Edmonton, like that's wow. And then they go up against Florida, like you say, and the only 2 games that Edmonton won were 2 overtime games with Leon Draisaitl scoring, and those games could have gone either way. In fact, if you remember that one game, there was a shot. I'm not sure if it was by Reinhart. It was one of the Sams, either by Reinhart.
Yep. Went in, came out in behind.
Well, no, he took a shot and Picard hit it with it was a one-timer from Lestrainen or whatever, and he shot it and it hit Picard's glove, hit his glove, then hit the crossbar and then came out. That was an overtime. And then a minute later, Draisaitl scored by knocking it in off the defenseman on the pass, on the backhanded pass. So I'm just saying, those games could have easily gone the other way. I mean, it could have been done in 4 if you think about it, because the other games that Oilers weren't even in. So it just shows you, I agree with you, Florida, they were by far the class of the NHL this year. Not so much in the regular season. They were in 3rd place. But like we've talked about, maybe, you don't have to kill yourself to get home ice advantage if you've got a really good team that plays the same.
Well, they didn't have home ice advantage all playoffs, and look where they ended up.
And you could still win by still being great on the road and by playing the same way. Not like the Jets. The Jets, they didn't win a single game on the road, and the Panthers won a ton. Each
Yeah.
round won at least 2 or 3 games. So it just goes to show you it's a funny thing. But I agree with you. Florida is by far the class of the NHL this year. Again, they absolutely deserved the cup. McDavid said it, Draisaitl said it, Knobloch said it. Florida is a great team, and it's not a fluke that they're back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. So it just showed you how good a team can be if a team buys in and everybody plays the same way and they're that talented. They can capitalize on mistakes and they can make their team. Oh, are you okay?
Sorry, we had a smoke detector going off
Okay.
in studio.
Okay.
No.
All good.
Man. Yeah, everything's all good.
Good. Yeah.
But
no, just let me finish my point.
I mean, in general, like the other thing, and sorry, I missed the back half of what you said, but I think with the Florida being a great team and getting into the playoffs and then just playing the right way.
Yep.
I always look at this like the National Hockey League is a copycat league, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
How does anybody, future, present, want to model themselves after Florida? Because to me, there's not one contrasting style that allowed the Florida Panthers to win the Stanley Cup. They beat teams in multiple ways, right? Like, I don't think, and I could be wrong, and we can have this discussion, I don't think there's a single trademark that differentiates the Florida Panthers from past champions. Everybody tries to emulate the champs when they get beat or have been beat or what. I don't think there's one thing you can take from the Panthers and say that is definitively what we need to do to copy them to win a Stanley Cup.
Okay.
That's the interesting part about this whole thing.
Okay, well, I would beg to differ, and here's where I will.
Okay, maybe you have a suggestion, but
okay. The first thing it tells me is you can have the 2 best players in the world scoring a ton of goals and a ton of power play goals and running roughshod in the first 3 rounds over teams, except for the first 2 games against the LA Kings. And then you can come up against a team like this. And yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he said the show is on fire, the house is on fire. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, or maybe it's just the studio. But anyway, it just shows you, okay, here's one thing you could learn and emulate. You don't need superstars. You don't need to go out and spend $15 million each on the 2 guys and potentially have $30 million of your salary cap tied up on 2 superstars. There's no guarantee that you're going to win because it hasn't happened yet. If you run up against a good team, it also tells me that you can have no superstar in your team, but have lots of really good players. Like the Florida Panthers, they have no weak players on that team. There is no filler. I mean, you could argue, you could say Kulikov and Schmidt playing on the 3rd pairing. Wow, that's a throw. Okay, but they didn't play that bad, and they didn't play all the time. They weren't out there. They were the 3rd pairing. They played against the other team's 3rd or 4th lines. But I'm just saying, matching up that team that Florida had, they could get scored for it. Look they didn't have Matthew Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk was skating around on one leg, and they still dominated. And I think even if Zach Hyman would have been there, I don't think it would have made a difference. I don't think it made a difference. Ekholm and Bouchard are supposed to be your top guys. They were your top 2. They played more than anybody. The Nurse, Wallman, whatever, and they made a ton of mistakes. Ekholm and Bouchard, and they got burned. They made mistakes and they got burned on it.
Edmonton as a whole, I thought, made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. So this, let me finish my point. So you say there's no copycat. I think there's going to be copycatting. And you know what's going to tell, especially as the salary cap goes up, is we don't need to have superstars. We need to have a lot of good players in that mid-range sort of upper mid-range, lower superstar, like a whole bunch of guys in that Bennett, Reinhart, Kachuk. You just go down the list there. Forsling, Verhage. I mean, it just
Barkov.
Barkov. I mean, he's their superstar. He didn't really even score that much in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, like they are such a deep team. They can get scoring from anywhere. And I just compare it to the Jets. The Jets could only get scoring from their first line consistently.
Yeah.
They just, you couldn't count on Lowry's line to score as 3 goals a game if Scheifele's line didn't. They maybe scored a goal a game, but not 3. Not like, Reinhart and Bennett and Verhage is the superstar one game. Bennett's the superstar the next game. The next game, Reinhart scores 4 goals. Like, what's going on? The Jets don't have that. Most teams don't have that, and it's an interesting thing because I think Florida's in that window now where they've got it. They've got these guys. Can they keep Ekblad, Marchand, and who's the third guy? And
Bennett,
the 3 UFAs, all over 30. Even high 30s. Can they keep them for another run next year? Zito seems to think they can make it work, getting a hometown some sort of a deal, playing for Florida to make it 3 in a row. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm just saying, I think a lot of teams are going to copycat and say, we don't have to have superstars. We have to have a really good goalie, and we've got to have a lot of talent, lines 1 through 4 and pairings 1 through 3. That's what I think it tells teams, is we don't have to.
Okay.
We just can't have any dead wood or any passengers, like Connor McDavid would say.
Does this? I think I know the answer to this, but I have to ask. Does this make the Winnipeg Jets and the Stanley Cup window even further away?
Well, I think the Jets have a lot of holes. I think a lot of teams compare it to Florida. Now, I think Florida is, it happens. And I have to say this too. Like, it's not, Florida, they did something special. You know what? It all has to work out. You've got to have contracts in the right time, in the right place, and the right guys all gelling and getting into their prime at the same time. Like, look how many guys they have, Florida, in sort of that age 28 to 35 window. Like, that's all your veterans.
But they're all producing at the same time.
They're all producing. They're all in their prime. They're all like there. The guys that weren't dressed for the games were the younger guys. There was a bunch of younger. They didn't even get in because they went with these guys, and they knew, like, you just go down that list. Seth Jones, Ekblad, und, Schmidt, Kulikov, Forsling. It's all guys in their high 20s and early 30s, early to mid 30s. And they just have this window, and they're not getting overly paid. So you can make it all work within the salary cap window at this time. And not every team has that ability to do that. The Jets could make it happen, but I think the Jets, like a lot of teams, you got to make some changes.
They're challenged in the fact that whoever, name your free agent, isn't going to come here on a hometown discount relative to Florida, where they have the benefits.
Maybe, or you've got to do some trades. You've got to make some trades, or you got to bring in some younger guys. Yeah. I know the Jets, you saw probably this week that they signed that Alphonse Frage.
Frage, yeah, that defenseman.
Yeah. They're very big on him. He's a left shooting defenseman. He's a little bit bigger. He's fairly physical. He can move the puck.
Yeah. I would be all over this if he was the right shot D-man, but we have so many lefties.
Yeah, I know. But maybe it means they can do something about trading. So we'll have to see. I mean, they signed him to an entry-level deal, so let's see.
Listen, I don't think he's in the plans this year. I think that's a Manitoba Moose this year, and if you have a really good year, we'll call you up at the end of the year. I don't think that he projects to be in the lineup in October. I think if we see a defenseman make the lineup in October, it's going to be Elias Salamonson, and that's about it.
Okay.
And then maybe they do a Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov to inject some youth into the bottom part of the lineup in some way. But we can get into that another time.
Okay.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking. I also wonder, Jonathan Taves. We'll mark down that tree in about 5 minutes. Where does Edmonton go from here? Just to touch on the Oilers, like you thought that maybe this was their best chance, but it seemed like this year's Panthers team was even better than last year's Panther team.
They are. That's
And
what a lot of people said, including Paul Maurice. So
it's interesting. Like, where do the Oilers go from here? Like, to me, you can only rearrange the death chair so many times. To me, their goaltending at the end of the day was just not good enough.
and that is true. And I have to say this too. I have to get this out because
Yep.
I was cheering for Florida. I made no bones about it. I had so many friends of mine and family say, "How can you not cheer for a Canadian team?" If you're a Winnipeg Jet fan, you can't cheer for the Oilers. I don't care what you say. You can't put on the blue and orange hat or the jersey. You can't. If I put that thing on, I'd throw up. So I don't want to throw up. I don't like throwing up. I'd vomit all over myself if I put on an Oilers jersey. I'm not cheering for the Oilers. I don't care. I said this to my family. I said the Oilers could be in the finals against ISIS. They could have terrorists on skates on the other side against the Oilers, and I would cheer for the terrorists because I'm not cheering for the Oilers. So I don't care. It's just not going to happen. But that being said, I used an extreme example. But that being said, I'm really happy about Evander Kane not getting a Stanley Cup ring and being on the side. I think there's something almost sinful about the name Evander Kane ending up on the Stanley Cup. And I hope it never happens. So you should be, all Winnipeg Jets fans should be happy that Mr. Tracksuit in the shower should not is not on the Stanley Cup. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I think that the Jets, like a lot, or like the Oilers, I don't think they're that far off. Like, how long can Florida maintain this? I don't think they can. I don't think they can keep Marchand, Ekblad, and Bennett. If I was a betting man, I would say they don't sign Marchand. They sign Bennett and Ekblad, and they say goodbye to Marchand, and they find somebody else to fit that role for less money and a little bit younger, and so on. But eventually, Florida, their window is going to close because they're getting older, and I think the Oilers are just behind them. If I'm the Oilers, I don't change much. That's still a really good look. They got to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row. Yep. 1 year they get to game 7, the second year to game 6. Like, they're not like way off. I mean, they're not Chicago. They're not.
This is like whatever running into the Oilers teams of the 80s.
Yeah, it's like the Jets. You're not going to change your whole team because you're running up against Messier and Anderson and Gretzky and Lowe and Huddy and all those guys. You can't. You just got to keep rolling, and maybe you just tweak on the edges. So if I'm Edmonton, I don't blow a gasket. I don't hit the panic button. I make sure I get McDavid signed to a contract, make sure he wants to be there, get him long-term, and then you work on the edges. And if that's goaltending, okay, it's goaltending. I mean, it's so interesting. Like, you could talk about Bobrovsky all you want. He had an up and down season, but I tell you, that
he couldn't stop a beach ball his first couple of years in Florida. Remember that?
And yeah, but in the playoffs, he's a gamer. He is a gamer. And look at Stuart Skinner. I mean, he's a great kid. Listen, and Calvin Pickard, they're great guys. But it's so like, it's sort of like what we have with Hellebuck. He could stand on his head, win a game by himself, face 40 shots, and then the next night let in the first period 2 wrist shots from 45 feet away with nobody in front. And he just goes, how did that get over my shoulder? I don't know. Like, it's the inconsistency that would just drive me nuts if I was a coach, if I was Stuart Skinner. He looks like he's George Vezina one night and then or 1 year, and then the next year he can't stop a beach ball. To your point, he looked terrible yesterday. That one, he makes that save, bounces it off his shoulder right out in front to Barkov, and Barkov passes over to Reinhart for that second goal. I mean, that's a terrible. You should be either getting out of the way and letting that thing rim around the glass, or you got to hit it down to yourself. You got to swallow it up or knock it into the corner. Don't just knock it out right in front on the circle. Terrible.
It's interesting because I think ultimately, and I think we're guilty of this, we see a lot of goals scored, and we right away directed as the goaltender's problem. When, to be frank, some of Edmonton's defensemen needed to be better. A lot of them needed to be better.
Yes.
And show me a good goaltender, and I'll show you a good defense as well. Look at the structure the Jets played with all regular season. Is that an accident that Connor Hellebuck was as good as he was? When you're
No.
not giving up a lot of opportunities,
Correct.
the numbers are gonna bear that out. The other thing with Florida, just quickly on the way out, because I
Yep.
want to talk about the Vezina Trophy and all that stuff. Florida has a lot of guys that have that it factor, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to win at whatever cost.
Yeah.
We're gonna sacrifice our team stats for the betterment of our team. We're gonna have an okay regular season, but we're gonna load up and we're gonna get Seth Jones, who looks like a revitalized player since he's come there from the trade deadline.
Yep.
He's got that it factor. Marchand, he's got that it factor. Bennett, the list goes on, right? You bring in players that fit your culture that are gonna help your group. I don't know. It's just interesting, right? And I think Edmonton is missing that to a large extent. Winnipeg is missing that to a large extent. But it's also interesting from the standpoint of the teams that Florida lost to, particularly Toronto, really lacked that it factor. And listen, there's a lot of Leaf fans online this morning and last night as the game was going on. Yeah, if we would have won Game 7, we would probably be in that scenario. Well, the fact of the matter is you didn't. The fact of the matter is your team crumbled. You didn't have that it factor to fight back and say, we're not going to lose this game no matter what.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's very, very interesting because one team had it, one team didn't. The team that had it won. And
Yep.
they're champions because of it.
Yep. And how do you find guys that have that? Like, how do you interview? Like, if guys knew, if general managers or scouts could put their finger on that, being able to draft players, that's one thing. Being able to draft an 18-year-old to see what is he going to be like at 30, 12 years later, like a Sam Bennett or a Sam Reinhart. I mean, they were good players. They were drafted, thought they'd be one kind of
You
player.
remember Sam Bennett getting crucified at 18, 19, and 20 in Calgary?
In Calgary, because they expect him to be this like Wayne Gretzky or like
right out of the chute.
Right. And look, and then he leaves and he's won the Stanley Cup twice, and now he's gonna get some big windfall of a contract, whether it's in Florida or somewhere else. Right. But my point is, if you knew what that was, and you could even 18 is one thing, but then to sign a guy or to trade for him at 25 or at 27 or at 30 and say, I know this guy, what's in here, that is something that
Bill Zito seems to know that. Julian Breezewell before him seems to know that.
I know. And I think every team has a few of those guys. But to your point, I think Florida has more of those guys than anybody else. And that's why they're Stanley Cup champions. They just have that. They've got talent. They haven't overpaid. They've got a lot. They have no weak links. They've got a lot of really good players, which is why I like the Stars, because I thought the Stars were similar in that way. But they had a lot of injuries coming down the road here. I mean, Robertson was not the player he was all year. I think he was fighting an injury. So as Rupe Hintz was fighting something. They never mentioned what it was. And then their star defenseman, Niskanen, he came back halfway through. Okay, well, even if you come back and that's great, but you're not the same player if you're not up to speed from the regular season. You come in the middle of the playoffs. It takes at least a few weeks to get to get sea legs for the regular season. And now you put it in at the playoffs where it gets amped up even more. So I just don't think the Stars were there. And look at Florida. They stayed healthy for the most part. I mean, Tkachuk said in an interview yesterday, he said, if this was the regular season, I wouldn't be playing. I would have I would have stepped
But
out.
but
and got
that's
surgery
but
and
that's a special kind of player to even want to put your body through that.
yep,
That's a mentality and that's a mindset
yep,
to have that sort of that toughness, that fortitude.
yep,
It's one thing to say, "Oh, I got this injury." It's another to say, "I'm not going to play," or "I'm going to play through it."
yep.
There's that intangible, and if everybody knew what that intangible was, everybody would be winning the Stanley Cup every year, and
And
everybody would
every
have
yeah,
the same.
yeah, you're right. And you'd find the right guys and you'd be able to do it. And it's still there's some teams that are better at it than others when it comes to drafting. I think the Jets are very good when it comes to drafting. They're very good considering they, you could argue, are one of the least attractive markets. Look, they've been able to sign Scheifele, Connor, Hellebuck, and then Kyle Connor. Now they got and Josh Morrissey, Adam Lowry. Like they've been able to sign huge parts of their team. Now they just got to add on the fringes and do what they can. And we'll see what they do with Nick Ehlers. That'll be another interesting thing. It's been very quiet, so you don't know what's going to happen with Nick Ehlers. Does he want to be a Jet? I think if he wants to be a Jet, he makes something happen. But I don't know. I heard that his agent spent 2 hours plus with Cheveldayoff yesterday. That was in the paper this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm just of the opinion that if your agent, which is you, if you're talking to the GM of your existing team for 2 hours before free agency comes up, that means there's still a chance that you want that you want to be in Winnipeg. Because if he had no desire, like if he said, I don't give a rip about Winnipeg, I'm out of here, I'm testing the free agency market. Well, then his agent, why would he talk to
you? Would pull a Mitch Marner, basically.
Yeah.
And not even answer the phone.
Yeah. Exactly.
Allegedly.
Mitch Marner's gone. I hate to tell you, Leaf Nation.
No,
Mitch Marner's gone. He is not coming back this side.
It's a few years too late, and John Tavares might as well follow him out the door.
And Tavares will probably follow him, yeah. But because they're going to make changes.
But
anyway.
that can be a discussion for later on.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people quickly on the Nikolai Ehlers thing? But
yep.
Oh, if he wanted to be there, he would have done it already.
Yeah, you could argue that. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you could argue that. You could say that. But maybe he wants to see what he's worth out there. Maybe he goes to free agency. He sees the offers that he gets, and then he comes back to the Jets and says, here's what I'm being offered. Because his agent can't talk to another team right now because that's tampering, right? Apparently, the only person that Nikolai Ehlers and his representatives can talk to currently up until July 1st is the Winnipeg Jets. And
unless the Jets give him permission.
Correct.
But that hasn't happened yet.
Or you trade away his rights to some other team to negotiate exclusively for the next week or whatever it is. Actually, it's a couple of weeks still. Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
In your mind, and let's put a hypothetical scenario forward.
Okay.
Nikolai Ehlers goes to Chicago. Nikolai Ehlers goes to Utah. Nikolai Ehlers goes to somebody that isn't the Winnipeg Jets, that isn't necessarily a top-tier team.
Yeah.
Is this about money and fit? Like, for me, if I'm Nikolai Ehlers, I can't think of a better opportunity. Now, I might have rose-colored glasses on, and you can accuse me of that if you want. But for me, I cannot find a more stable scenario where you can get, number one, a winning team, which the Jets have been the last number of years in the regular season. You can get the financial flexibility within reason. Like, to me, if this is about going to Chicago for that extra $1 million, the grass is not necessarily greener because teams like that are 3 and 4 years away into your supposed 7-year contract. It would probably take 2, 3, 4 years to get to the Winnipeg level. So I guess there's a cautionary tale about, yes, there might be more money out there, but it's not necessarily greener as far as ultimately getting to where you want to go, which I assume for most of them would be winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So to me, that whole dynamic is just interesting because I think if it's truly about the money, Winnipeg is not your choice. Well, I'll say that right now. I think
Well,
the Jets will have financial restraint in that regard. But if your intention is about winning, sustainably having a culture and having a chance to win every year, why wouldn't you want to be here? So that to me is sort of interesting about even like the Mitch Marner, right? Like he did go to Vegas, he did go to Utah, he did go to, but are they really gonna win in those first few years? And maybe that's not all, right? Maybe it is about the dollar bills, and I'm just on some pipe dream of, oh yeah, he could make $8 million here, but over there he can make 10 million, and that extra 2 million. Wow, it's
I think it's
that life
everything.
changing. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think it's everything. I think if he had been stuck on the second line and on the second power play and whatever, then maybe, he's got to be, it's going to be a multiple things. It's going to be about the chance to win. So he can't be to a team that's developing, that's on
Right.
still the amp up or the amp down. He's got to be a team like the Oilers, like they're close by, but they just need one or two more pieces to kind of get over the hump like that. So I think that's what he's going to look for. He's got to make his money, and he's got to be in a situation where he gets prime time, like first or second line and first power play. Well, he has that now with the Jets. Now, does it make sense now if he comes to Winnipeg and the Jets sign Jonathan Toews? Does he now look and say, "Ooh, I could play with Jonathan Toews and Cole Perfetti"? That's not too shabby, right? So and the Jets are close. Like, I'm not saying the Jets are not miles away. The Jets are a good team. I don't know why they couldn't win on the road. I wish I could figure out why they couldn't win on the road this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could win at home. You play defensively. You're the number one team all year when it comes to defense, and then you open up like a floodgate just opens up when you go on the road.
Yep.
You can't stop a beach ball. You can't kill penalties. You can't keep the score from the opposition under 2 or 3 goals. Like, I don't know. I can't figure it out. But all that being said, Winnipeg's a good situation for him. It's just, are they able to meet his monetary demand? Would the Jets be able to do it? You know what? And I'm not going out on a limb and saying they can't do it. I'm not going to say, like, you know why? Because I didn't believe the Jets wanted to or could sign Shifley and Hellebuck. They wanted, that they thought were fair in the marketplace at the time, and they made it work. Now, those deals are probably over the next 5 years are going to get very, very attractive because the salary is going to go up. So maybe Nick Ehlers is going to end up making as much money as Shifley and Hellebuck. It's possible, I guess. Maybe, I don't know what he wants. He was making $6 million and change. Right. Does he want 7, 8? How many years? 5 years? 6 years? What are they willing to give him? 5 years, 6 years at $8 million a year? Would he sign for that in Winnipeg? I don't know. Good question. Maybe he wants a change of scenery. I don't. He's not. I believe he's married, so it's not like he's got kids. It's not like he's got this huge investment in Winnipeg the way that Shifley and Hellebuck do by the same regard. So it's an interesting thing, and I agree with you. I don't think. That's one thing with Nick Ehlers. And then you put Nick Ehlers being private and then Cheveldayoff being private. You don't hear boo about this thing. Hey, you have not heard boo. There's been not a rumor. He's upset, or he's about his playing time, or he doesn't like playing with Namestnikov, or he doesn't like blah, 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 or he doesn't like sitting next to this guy in the dressing room. None of that. It has been so quiet, which I always used to think was a problem for the Jets. If it's quiet, that's not good. You know what? With Cheveldayoff, it is good because it's no factor.
It gives you credibility around the league that you're not running your mouth and saying
true,
whatever happened.
But Cheveldayoff's history tells us that it could be like there's nothing going on, and that doesn't mean anything. There can be a million things going on, but
and then the Shifley and Hellebuyck extensions. Boom.
Correct. We knew nothing about the all of a sudden out of the blue. Oh, they both signed at the same press conference. Da, 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 da. You think that just happened an hour before the press conference? No way. They were talking about that for days and nobody knew a thing about it, which tells you there's no leaks, no cracks. That is a vault that's locked down. So I'm just saying there's part of me that says, why doesn't he sign? Da, da, da. And then there's a part of me that says, you know what? All of a sudden, it could just be like July the 2nd. Oh, Nick Ehlers signs 6-year, $8 million a year contract with the Jets to stay. And he's at the press conference and he says, oh, I wanted to be a Jet for life all along. I love this organization. They're so good to their players. I love this town. I love the fans. I don't know. It's not like a Blake Wheeler where Wheeler's skills were dying off and people are kind of and then he just said,
and then that's when the animosity came in.
Exactly. And then change of pace. Let's buy him out, let him go. And he says a nice video. It's not the case with Ehlers, right? It's not the case like it was with Dubois. It's Nick Ehlers. Folks like him. So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how this all plays out. I think the Jets could still be involved in free agency or with some trading some picks and players, moving people around. What do they sign? If they sign Taves, if Taves wants to play for the Jets, play for his hometown in the, at the end of his career now and see if he can be part of the group that helps to push them over. I mean, he's a big guy. Imagine having Scheifele, Taves, Lowry down the middle there. And then Morgan Barron on the fourth line. That's
and the Mesketov somewhere, right?
And then the Mesketov can play on the wing if he has to. He doesn't mind playing on the wing either. So,
it is interesting. Do you have thoughts on the overwhelming nature in which Connor Hellebuyck won the Hart Trophy?
So what was the overwhelming nature? How many first place votes did he get?
He got the majority of them.
Who was in second place for the Hart after him?
It was Draisaitl. Yeah.
I would imagine it would have been Draisaitl ahead of McDavid too, even though McDavid had a good year. But yeah, very interesting.
Or was it McKinnon? Hang on, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay. But either way, listen. Connor Hellebuyck had a great year. I mean, the Jets had a great year, and I agree with you. You could say, "Oh, the Jets won the what is that award for having the lowest goals against the Jennings?
Jennings, yeah, the least.
Oh, they won the Jennings because of Hellebuyck, and you could argue, say, well, Hellebuyck won the Jennings because of the team in front of him. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both. I think it's together. And they committed to playing the right way in front of Hellebuyck. Hellebuyck played the right way behind them. They were the best, defensive team in the league. Why that didn't translate into the playoffs, I don't know. I think a big part of it is the Jets. And again, I've said this many times. I think it's grit. I just think they still need more sandpaper in that lineup, more size, more edge. I don't know what you want to call it. More sandpaper, whatever. Sandpaper with skill. That's what they need. Not just sandpaper. Anybody can get sandpaper. I mean, those guys are a dime a dozen. But sandpaper that can still score 20, 30 goals during the regular season and can be a force in the playoffs, like a Bennett, like a Reinhart, like a Verhaeghe, and like a Marchand, right? So, but listen, all the credit to the Jets and to Connor Hellebuyck because he was by far the best netminder all year consistently, and they were the best defensive team, which is why they won the President's Trophy because they were a great team. Just unfortunate it did not translate into the playoffs. So, but
yeah, so hold on. There were 196 total ballots distributed, 191 of which were returned. And I'm just seeing the voting breakdown for each individual voting. It was Hellebuyck followed by Draisaitl. No, Hellebuyck followed by McKinnon and Draisaitl.
McKinnon, okay.
Yeah. So, and then there's no... We know that Connor Hellebuyck was one vote short of anonymous, unanimous. So
Unanimous.
unanimous.
Yep.
For the Hellebuck, for the Vezina Trophy.
Okay.
The only vote he didn't get was a Tampa Bay Lightning reporter giving the first place vote to Andrei Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
The link for the voting is available. Just search PHWA voting for the 2025, and it comes right up on their website. Each person's vote is actually listed on there, like who voted for what.
Okay.
As part of their transparency. Job well done. Yeah, so it's interesting, right? And I think, Hellebuck enters a very elite status with like goaltenders that have won the Hart. I think only two other goaltenders have done it: Carey Price and Jose Theodore.
Yeah.
With Montreal, actually, both ironically enough. Interesting, and I think that's just another feather in the cap of potential free agent openings for Winnipeg when you say, oh yeah, would you want to play with the Hart Trophy winner from this year? Would you want to play with the Vezina winning? Like, what more would you want to basically sell Winnipeg on?
Yeah.
That was sort of brought up. The other question I have for you, and it's interesting because I was talking to, I'm not sure if it was to Rob or somebody else about this. Yeah, Ryan also saying Dominic Hassett did as well. Yeah, that might have been before my time. But what does a new contract look like for Dylan Sandberg? Like, we understand that 8 years might be the goal and the objective if you're the Winnipeg Jets. What does a dollar value look like?
He's
Six
at.
and a half.
Is he an
Six?
RFA after next year?
Yeah, he's an RFA after this year. That's why I'm asking.
Like now or after this coming
Now,
season?
like
He's an
now.
RFA right now.
Yeah. Like, what does that look like? Like, I think if I'm a Jets, I'm going 8 years. But what does the money look like?
Well, he's not a $10 million a year defenseman.
No, absolutely
He's
not.
not in
Because
the, and he's
he
not in the
doesn't have the
most.
Kale McCarr offensive upside.
I don't know. I don't think you pay him. I don't think, is he worth $5 million a year? I don't know.
Ryan in the chat says 7 times 6.8. I think that's a little high.
He doesn't score much. Like he's a great defensively, but you don't pay defensive defensemen. Like you still got to score a little bit. Like
Yeah, it's interesting. 7 times 6, 7 times 5.75 for me.
I would maybe go 7.5. Yeah, I don't. You want to give him? How old is he? Like he's in his late 20s, 28, 27.
Yeah,
I don't think
Well,
he's at UFA. Like he hasn't played. He's not
no,
27
he's
years old, and he
RFA.
hasn't been in the league for 7 years. What's that?
Yeah, he's an RFA.
Right. Which means
I
he
know,
might not be
Dylan.
even 27 yet. Is he 26 maybe? So I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
look right now. He's 26.
26. Okay, give him 7 years, 5 million a year. I don't know, 5.5. I'm not getting 6+. I'm just not. I
I
can't.
said 5.75.
Yeah, or even 5.5. Like, what did he get for points this year? He didn't even get a point every a half point a game. I think he was around 8 goals and 22
Hold on,
assists.
I can pull it up here.
I don't even think he had 40 points. I think he had 30 points, maybe 32, something like that, 34 points.
20 points total this year in 60
20.
games.
Yeah, see, he's not $5 million a year. But maybe with the new salary cap, that's what he is now. But I personally would not pay him more than $5 million a year for that. I'm sorry.
The 20 points were also a career high, even dating back to his junior days.
Right, but he's not 22. He's 26. Like
Well, I know that's that.
Like this
I don't
is
know. Even my 5.75 is a little high. 5.5.
Yeah, and he doesn't slap shoot. He's got the same disease that Dylan DeMello has, that he can't take a slap shot of his life dependent and put it up in the air.
For context, DeMello makes $3 million a year.
Exactly, and he's a defensive defenseman that plays on the first pairing. And how many points did he get this year? 20, 25? Probably not many more than Sandberg got. Probably very similar. I think he might have had more than Sandberg. I think he got more like 25, 27.
Yeah, I'm looking here.
That's okay. So all that to say, I'm not paying. Sorry, I'm hardlining. I'm not paying Sandberg.
19. Sandberg had 19 points in 82 games.
Sandberg did.
No, DeMello.
DeMello 19 and Sandberg had 20. So you could argue between 4 and 5. But maybe with the new salary cap, you want to lock him up for 7 years. Okay, $5 million a year for 7 years. I'm not giving him more than $5
I'm
million.
being generous, 525, but that's it.
Well, that's fine. It can come out of your salary then.
I mean, 8 times 5, 7
Yeah.
times 5.
Yeah, listen, it's
But
also
to me, I would take that all day long.
correct. And it's also the question of you're buying his years into UFA status, right? So that's the problem, is that he's probably how many years away from UFA? Still another 2, I think. Probably. He's probably got to be close to 2 years, not more than 3. So if you're signing him to more than, unless he doesn't want to sign more than 3 years, that he might sign a deal that only takes him up until UFA status. But if you want him more, you're gonna have to pay him a little bit more. If you want him 7 years to commit into his 30s and into his UFA years, then you may have to pay him more. So which is why you may have to pay him $5 million a year. And maybe in 7 years from now, $5 million a year for a guy that gets you 20 to 30 points and plays on your second pairing as a defenseman is a really good price.
Sorry, but to make this easier on you, he's a UFA after the 2026-2027 season.
Okay.
So they could basically, if they signed him to a 2-year contract, that would walk him right to UFA.
Right. And he may say, I don't want to go past 2 years because I don't want to sign. Or if you want to sign me into my UFA years, then you got to pony up, baby. That's what his agent will say, right? So
then what?
Then I would pay him a little bit more.
The Jets will argue you don't score goals.
Yeah.
But for context, I think Miro Heiskanen somewhere around the 8.5, 9.
Right. And I'm not, and Josh Morrissey is what, 6.5, 7? So I'm not paying him Morrissey money. I'm not. Sorry, you're not Josh Morrissey. You're a good defenseman.
Josh Morrissey 6.25.
Right. But this is the new era, right? The salary cap's going up. Deals always look like the longer the deal, the worse it looks at the beginning and the way better it gets as time goes by, because the salary cap, like inflation and like everything and like prices for gas and eggs and everything goes up. So I'm just saying, you may, if you're going to pony up, if you want him to sign for more than a pair of years and you're buying him into his UFA years, you're going to have to pay him more. So whatever that is, I'd pay him $4 million a year if you're getting him 2 UFA years. If you're allowing me to buy you UFA years, I'm not paying you more than 5. Sorry. I mean, you're a great defenseman, Sandberg, but maybe Alphonse Frege can do it for the same amount of money. Maybe Salmonson is a left-handed shot. Maybe he can do it for the same amount or do it for way less money and score once in a while. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's interesting, right? Now you're paying for even things like goal scoring.
Well, that's all part of it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot in his favor. I know the Jets' record when he's in the lineup versus not in the lineup is very different. Like he has a huge.
Well, yeah. Even the analytics.
Yes, all the analytics. He is a good hockey player. I'm not doubting that. But like I'm saying, if you play like he does defensively and you score 50 points as a defenseman, 55 points a year, then you're in the $8-9 million a year, or you're like an Aaron Ekblad. If you're not, you're in the $5 million a year. That's I can't make it any more straightforward than that. So
that's interesting, because I'm not disputing what you're saying one way or another. The Hart Trophy winner is under contract for another 7 years in Winnipeg at $8.5 million. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, I know. It seems ridiculous now. It'll be a bargain in 3 or 4 years from now. And at the end of that contract, he won't be the same goalie. And then it It'll be like Carey Price. It'll be, I mean, maybe he is like a Fleury. Maybe he can play into his late 30s and early 40s and his body can maintain. I don't know.
Yeah.
But for every Marc-Andre Fleury, there's a Carey Price. But so it's sometimes your body lets you down.
Yeah,
that can happen to anybody,
and that could happen sooner too. That could happen next year, the year after, and you're just not the same goaltender. I mean, he's been a durable goaltender his whole career.
Correct.
In Winnipeg,
he has not been injured a lot. That is true.
Relative to, and I think that's something else, but they just need to account into the Nikolai Ehlers accounting. But I think we forgot to mention he hasn't played a healthy season, a healthy full season in some time, as well. So there'll be that to figure out. Give me one bold off-season prediction that just on the way out, because I know we have to go. We're going to be back next week to set up the draft and any movement up until then. But what's one big bold move that you could see coming?
Okay,
maybe not in the next week, but in the off season.
Okay, I make a couple. The Jets will sign Jonathan Toews. He wants to play for his hometown and make that part of his legacy and his career. He's going to sign a 2 or 3 year deal to play with the Jets for the next 3 seasons to play second line center behind Scheifele and in front of Lowry. Number one. Number two, I think the Jets are going to make some type of a deal to change their team
defensively,
whatever. Well, they change their team Katra, whatever, like their chemistry, whatever you want to call it. They've got far too many defensemen that are meh, and they need to upgrade their defense in some way. So if that means moving out 2 or 3 guys here and there to get some draft picks, freeing up space, and then bringing in somebody when you trade away a draft pick or a prospect or something, or a good existing player, they have to do something on the defense side and get some more sandpaper on the defense and some more size and potentially a right-hand shot. And they've got to add something on their second or third line. I don't think they're going to sign Appleton. I think they're going to let him walk because he's just not. You
have too many players that are like Mason Appleton, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the Jets are going to be. I think the Jets are going to be players in that regard too. So So I think that's going to be. And then what else can I say? I think Marner is going to sign someplace, and I think Marner, he is going to sign for McKinnon, Draisaitl money. I think somebody, I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Carolina. I heard now he said no to Carolina, waiving his trade club. Maybe he's going to sign there now, but somebody's going to pony up. They're going to trade somebody, free up some cap space, and they're going to give Marner like $13 to $15 million a year for like 5.
Buyer beware, buyer beware, buyer beware.
He's great in the regular season. What has he done in the playoffs? That's all I'm saying. He hasn't won anything.
Red light for me is flashing.
Well, I don't. But he scores a lot. And he's exciting to watch. And he's a good player. And he makes other guys around him pretty good.
Mine?
Yeah.
The Utah Mammoth. Make a Mammoth type move.
For Mitch Marner?
But nobody sees coming.
Oh, somebody, you're saying. Oh, okay. Could be Nick Ehlers. Could be. Yeah.
Utah made some move to get themselves better and takes advantage of somebody's salary cap predicament or signs a big free agent. I have Utah as a playoff team next year with a significantly upgraded roster in some way or another.
They've got a ton of cap space, and they've got a lot of young players and picks where they could play that into a trade or into a trade to get somebody or to sign somebody in free agency or both.
My second one?
Yeah.
The Winnipeg Jets lose Nikolai Ehlers to free agency, but they trade for Buffalo's J.J. Peterka.
Mm-hmm. I heard he wants a new setting, eh? That's the rumor.
That's my thinking. That they lose Ehlers for J.J. Peterka.
Is he a winger as well?
Jason Paterka.
Is he a winger?
He's a German.
Is he a winger?
He is a left winger, yes.
Okay. And is he speedy? Is he skilled?
He is a 30. I'm just checking here.
Why haven't we heard much about him? Is that because he plays for the Sabres? You just don't hear about him because the Sabres aren't a big market, and
hold on 1 second here, just on the way out.
Okay.
JJ Paterka has 28 and 27 goals in the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
Playing 82 and 77 games the last 2 years.
Is he big? Is he speedy? What's his angle? Like, is he a guy? Or is he more skilled?
He is 6 feet 189.
Okay, so he's like Ehlers, very similar, but maybe
23 years old.
Yeah. Okay.
Just an idea.
But okay, then if he's 23, he's not a UFA. Like the Jets would trade for him, right?
RFA. Yeah,
so
I said the Jets will.
Offer sheet?
No, I think the Jets would trade for him.
Mm-hmm. They probably have to give up something though of value.
Yeah, Brad Lambert,
Hainalon Lambert, maybe
Colby Barlow.
I wouldn't trade Colby Barlow.
Take your pick.
How close are Colby Barlow and Brendan Yeager to making the Jets lineup?
Braden.
Braden, sorry, Braden.
Yeah, I don't know. Barlow's a winger.
He's winger centerman. He's played center too, but he played. Didn't Barlow come after his junior was over? He played for the Moose at the end of the year. Didn't he sign a contract?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
I'd love to see.
I also heard on Barry did a 42. I know some reporting in recent days. The Jets had an offer on the table for Marty Necas, and it involved Nikolai Ehlers being the return piece.
Back before the trade deadline.
Yeah, at the trade deadline this year.
Before Necas went to Colorado.
Yeah. Interesting. There's a lot of. I've heard I'm good at 42, but Winnipeg took some significant swings at the trade deadline. We're in on some big stuff, but it didn't quite connect.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens.
Brock Nelson as well. I heard that they were in.
Brock Nelson. I know they're trying to upgrade second line center with Nelson, but we'll see. All right.
We'll see. That's the part about hockey season finally being done. Silly season can start. All these rumors will start to come to fruition.
Yes.
Anyway, Red, you look crystal clear, pristine, and high definition. Welcome to the club of having great internet. So far, so good, eh?
Yep. So when are we on? Not this coming Monday, or not? But next. Wednesday?
We will probably be on this time next weekish with the draft next Friday.
The draft is on Friday.
Next Friday. Yep, at the some theater in LA, and then free agency is on Canada Day. So
okay.
All right. For Red Petty, this is Michael Dell saying, have a great day. Congratulations to Paul Maurice, Nate Schmidt, and Dmitry Kulikov, former Winnipeg Jets, on winning the Stanley Cup. For Red Petty, Michael Dell saying, so long. Have a great week. Talk to you then. Bye for now.